Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said if you stop to throw stones at every dog on the way to your destination, you'll never get there.
Well, all right, having said that, good evening and welcome to our regular city council meeting for the 10th of September, the year of 2018. At this time, I ask if you have any electronic devices that you turn them off, please, so we can have the meeting in somewhat quiet atmosphere. And also, if you care to address the council, we have some little yellow cards outside the door you can fill out and get to the city clerk, and she'll get them down to me. And having said that, at this point, I would like to have Reverend George Katzman come up and lead us in invocation. If you would, sir, lead us in a pledge afterwards.
Okay.
Okay? Please stand. If you don't care to participate in the invocation, feel free to step aside until it's over.
Father, I just thank you so much for the privilege of getting to come to pray today, and I pray that you give wisdom in decisions that are made, and I pray that all things will be done decently and in order, and I thank you for our town, and I pray that for unity and peace in Crestview. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And if you would, pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Do we have, we don't have our signing system tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, having no signing system, I'll make note of the fact we have a quorum. All 5 of our council members are here, as well as our city mayor, city clerk, city attorney, and 4 out of 5 department heads. We only lost 1 department head. That's pretty cool. I'll warn you ahead of time. I take notes of what we're going to do at the meeting, and I left my notes at home, so I'm just kind of winging it tonight. So if you would bear with me. We actually have signed in because we're all here. And so does anybody have any objections to the agenda for this evening? See no objections, the agenda is approved for tonight by unanimous consent. And Mayor Cato, do you have some special presentations? I think you do, because I saw some folders down there.
A couple we're going to make this evening. Gentlemen who are pretty well known around here. I'd like first to bring up Carlos Jones. He forgot that it's his turn. Carlos is our Assistant Director of Public Service. He does a wonderful job, and I'm sure Wayne Steele would not know what to do without you. Appreciate all the work that you do over there. The City of Crestview 10-Year Service Award is presented to Carlos Jones of the Crestview Public Services Department, September 8, 2008 to September 8, 2018. For the honorable and dedicated services daily rendered by this highly valued employee, for the quality of time and effort utilized in completing each and every task exceedingly above minimal standard with excellence. And for all the duties you have accomplished within these 10 years, you are highly commended for services rendered to the citizens of the city of Crestview, Florida. Congratulations. And now, when I saw this today, I wasn't quite sure who this person was, because I'd never heard this name before. So I guess there's a Norman Humphrey here this evening. Better known as Al. Better known as Al Humphrey. And Deputy Chief Grant is ill tonight, and so Commander Snyder stepping in for him. So what do you have to say about Mr. Humphrey?
Well, we took a couple minutes to tell everything about what Al's done around here. We'd be here till 11 o'clock tonight, so I'll keep it short and sweet. But Al is very well liked around the department, the city, and the agency. Everybody knows him. He's always getting our children across the crosswalk safe. He dedicates a lot of time, not just at work, but also in his time off. He dedicates dozens of hours per month to the auxiliary program of the agency. So he's always out there. He's been there longer than me. He's been there longer than most, and I'll tell you, he's a very dedicated worker, and we love him a lot. And I'm glad that he's being presented with his certificate this year for his 15 years of service with our agency. Outstanding work.
The City of Crestview 15-year service award is presented to Norman Al Humphrey of the Crestview Police Department, August 6, 2003, August 6, 2018. For the honorable and dedicated services daily rendered by this highly valued employee, and for the quality of time and ceaseless effort utilized in completing each and every task exceedingly above minimal standards with excellence. For all the duties you have selflessly performed for the citizens of Crestview within the last 15 years, you are highly commended and recognized for your rendered services to the citizens of the city of Crestview, Florida. Congratulations, Al.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody have any objections to the minutes from May 29th, 2018 workshop and the June 11th, 2018 city council meeting? Seeing no objections, those minutes are approved by unanimous consent. I see no public hearings. And at this point, this will be the first time anybody from the audience who would like to talk to the city council on anything on tonight's agenda, you have the opportunity to come in front of us now. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to the city council at this point? Seeing none, we're going to move on. I do want to point out something I didn't notice at the very beginning. We had the media in the back of the room. We have Ken Nielsen from CCTV, and we have Kaylin Parker from the Crestview News Bulletin. We thank you for being here and covering us. The consent agenda. Can I have a motion on that?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve consent agendas A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Moving on, number 10, resolution 18-30, budget amendments. Madam Clerk, if you would read that for us, please.
Resolution 18-30 reads by title, a resolution of the City Council of Crestview, Florida, amending the budget to more accurately reflect estimated revenues and appropriations. The amendments are results of various factors, including increases and decreases in estimated revenues and/or appropriations to more accurately reflect the projections for departments, providing for distribution to all departments of record, and providing for an effective date. This is Resolution 18-30.
I don't think it needs much of an explanation, but if there's anything you want to add to it?
No, so these were two items that were approved by the City Council. One was the sale of a fire truck that the appropriations were approved to go to the fire department for equipment and uniforms, I believe. The other one was a moving from a fixed asset reserve of $60,500 to the Parks and Recs Department for the improvement in the Environmental Center.
Any questions? Can I have action, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead.
I move to
Councilman Thomas.
approve Resolution 18-30.
I have a motion second to approve Resolution 18-30. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Resolution 18-25. Madam Clerk, would you read that, please?
Resolution 18-25 reads by title. A resolution by the City Council of Crestview, Florida, accepting a petition for out-of-city water service, establishing water service for property located at 2929 Schaffner Avenue, also known as 21-3N-23-1670-0023-0600, Okaloosa County, Florida, allowing for written objections by citizens and if necessary, a public hearing within 30 days from enactment of this resolution, providing for a municipal services agreement between the petitioner and city, and providing for an effective date. This is Resolution 18-25.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Galen, explanation, please?
Okay. Gentleman, John R. Tills, the new property owner for the parcel described under property ID 213 North 23 1670 00230600. The property is located at 2929 Schaffner Avenue, and he submitted for water service on August the 2nd of 2018. There was existing tap and service located at that particular address, so he did not have to pay additional connection or impact fee. He did pay for his petition application. He has signed a municipal services agreement to annex if and when he is ever contiguous and meets our requirements for annexation. You have the second sheet on your resolution shows you a map where he is located, and it shows you approximately the distance between the city limits and this particular piece of property. So,
Any questions? Action, please.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead,
I
Councilman
move to
King.
adopt resolution 18-25.
Second.
We have motion second to approve resolution 18-25. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Committee reports. EDC update by Mr. Nathan Sparks. Thank you for coming, Nathan.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Honorable Mayor, Mr. President, members of council, Nathan Sparks with the Economic Development Council of Okaloosa County. It's a pleasure to be before you this evening. As always, I was last before you in the early April timeframe, and it's certainly been a busy few months since that time. I'm going to touch on a few of those highlights tonight for you. So first and foremost, Okaloosa County continues to enjoy or struggle with, depending on your perspective, the lowest unemployment rate in the state of Florida. We're currently tied with St. Johns County at 3% unemployment. You know what a challenge that puts on our business community, and we're certainly cognizant of that. It also obviously puts a challenge on our efforts to recruit new businesses to our community. So we're doing a lot of things to quantify the hidden workforce. As Councilman Hayes knows, our Tri-County Partnership Initiative is one way we're doing that by surveying our exiting military, asking them about their plans post-military. Thankfully, we're seeing the percentage of military that are planning to stay in our local area continue to grow. 2 years ago when we started this process, it was about 35%. We're now above 50%, and we really attribute that to all the good work that's being done both inside the installation by leaders like Colonel Gary Dorman at Hurlburt and others to educate the soon-to-be separating military men and women on the opportunities in the local area, and then what the business community is doing to connect with those individuals in a variety of forums. Now, I'll tell you, too, we followed the lead of some of the larger communities out there, like Tampa and Nashville and some other large markets in the Southeast who have gotten very involved in what's called talent attraction. So about a month ago, the EDC unveiled a talent attraction portal on our website, which is centered around a jobs board that's updated real time every night, fed from ZipRecruiter. So we focus specifically on high wage opportunities. You know, we're all interested in making sure that those high wage opportunities and the STEM related occupations get filled locally so that those businesses that are paying greater than the average wage continue to grow and prosper here in our communities in Okaloosa County. So with that in mind, this initiative was unveiled, as I mentioned, in July. And we have not only a jobs board, but information about our communities, quality of life information about our educational opportunities here, our award-winning school district, our business-friendly government, all those things that individuals who are contemplating perhaps relocating to our area would want to know about. Cultural amenities, you name it. So we're hearing from a lot of the businesses in our community that this is a great resource that they're using in their recruitment of individuals into their businesses. Right now, there are about, at last count, about 600 high-wage job opportunities listed on this board. And so we began to think about, okay, how do we make sure that businesses, or excuse me, individuals who might be in Atlanta or Nashville or Charlotte or Birmingham, some major market where they're having to spend a lot of their morning and evening in traffic, and they're tiring of that. And we have traffic, but certainly it doesn't compare to what individuals in big cities experience. You all know that. And so with that in mind, we know that a lot of these people, and we see the license plates like you do, we know a lot of them love to vacation in our area. And so one thing that we've engaged in here in the summer months is in geo-targeting, where we can actually work to identify individuals who might be staying in the beaches communities of South Okaloosa County. We've got 3 properties that we've targeted from a geo-targeting standpoint, one being the Henderson Resort, one being the Emerald Grand, and one being just outside of Okaloosa County. Because of its expanse and the numbers of people it draws, we felt like Sandestin would be another good one. But knowing that a lot of very bright people, high-wage earners, vacation in these places, we did geo-targeting where essentially when they log into Facebook or any other social media application or log on to ESPN.com while they're staying, they got a nifty ad that had a beautiful shot of our community, and it said, "Why go home? Search here to click here to search 600 high-wage job opportunities right here in Paradise." So we're very pleased that we could find that 81 individuals actually went and took that call to action and conducted job searches using that feature during the week of the 4th of July. So now where the traceability fails, frankly, is we can't tell how many individuals actually saw fit to submit a resume, but we're getting word out, just like I'm doing tonight, that if you hear that someone found an opportunity in Okaloosa County because they happened to be vacationing here and saw this ad on their phone, their smartphone while they were here, decided to do some searches and found a new opportunity for their family, that would be wonderful. If just one person does that, then that's a success because it's a nominal investment for us. But it's one of many ways, back to my earlier point, that we're trying to chip away at that very low unemployment rate and to assist our businesses that are frankly really searching high and low for talent. And so just wanted you all to be aware of that. I will say we got a letter from Governor Scott commending us for our creative thinking with this and saying, you know, this is precisely the type of creative thinking that Floridians are known for, and that we applaud you and your partners for reaching out to individuals in other states who might be part of the future fabric of our state. So moving on from that, we had the opportunity to participate in the Farnborough International Air Show back in July as well. This is the largest aerospace aviation event in the world. And when we're in an event like this, the centerpiece of our sales pitch, the centerpiece of our focus with the meetings, and we had 20 aviation-related prospect meetings during our 4 days on the ground there. But the centerpiece of those conversations was the Bob Sykes Airport, and the fact that we have 130 acres that has been certified for rapid development around an 8,000-foot runway, and there's so much opportunity and potential there that you all are very cognizant of, and that we want to continue to spread the word about. So the good news is we found a very receptive audience. Not surprisingly, the number one question that we got from anyone that we met with, wherever they might be based, whether they were in Wichita, Kansas, or whether they were in the UK, was, tell me about your workforce. Number one question, every time. Everybody is struggling with finding talent. So we were able to harken back to what I was just telling you about, our talent attraction strategy, but we were also able to talk about the men and women that separate from the military, and the fact that, for instance, Hurlburt Field produces about 200 aircraft mechanics each year. So we have the supply, as you all know. We're working at the EDC in support of your community to go and find the demand in the form of businesses who can employ these individuals that are separating from the military and that are matriculating through our school district and through our educational partners. So wanted you to be aware of that. Thirdly, we held our Techman Industry Day on August 23rd, and this was the second Techman Industry Day. You all know that Techman is the Technology Coast Manufacturing and Engineering Network It's been part of EDC as long as there has been an EDC, so nearly 30 years now. And last year we decided that we needed to create an event where those companies have an opportunity to feature their vast capabilities in one event. And so there's a trade show component, there's presentation components, and this year we were delighted that the event drew 318 attendees. Councilman Hayes was with us. It was great to see him. I don't know if any other councilman made it, but it was a well-attended event, 318 attendees, 120 companies. We had 45 exhibitors in total, and what was interesting, if I may, is that we had a number of companies that were from outside the area. And these are companies that were from as far away as Washington State, from as far away as New Jersey, and all points in between, along with a healthy cluster of companies from the local area. So the companies that were from outside the area, they were here basically conducting due diligence in addition to peddling their wares, so to speak. Some of them are companies that we've met at trade shows like the one I just referenced, the Farnborough Air Show, and they use this as an opportunity to come and meet our business community, meet some companies that could be potential partners or suppliers, and to learn more about the local area. So we're very pleased that we had here as a captive audience, at least for that 24-hour period. But we've been conducting follow-up surveys, and I'll tell you, without exception, everyone has very positive things to say about the Techman Industry Day. So I think it is something that the EDC looks forward to continuing in the future. Beyond that, I want to transition to Shoal River Ranch. So last time I was here, we were about 2 weeks out from going before the Triumph Gulf Coast Board. As you all know, as it's been reported, that was successful. And Okaloosa County put forth an application for $1.5 million of water and sewer money, for water and sewer money to extend the water and sewer lines down Highway 90 to serve Shoal River Ranch. Water and sewer, as you know, is not present currently at Shoal River Ranch. It's essentially 3 miles and 4 miles away, respectively. So not an insignificant distance, but obviously not terribly far in the grand scheme of things. Nonetheless, when we're competing for industries as we have in the past, we found it as a major hurdle. When we're competing with another site that has the water and sewer already there on site, and there is no uncertainty or risk factor associated with getting the funding for the water and sewer or getting the water and sewer extended in terms of timing, we generally lose on that point. So now, thankfully, because of the application put forth by Okaloosa County to the Triumph Gulf Coast Board, and because of Triumph Gulf Coast approving this application, that factor that has been eliminating us is going to be resolved. In fact, after 4 or 5 months of various approval processes along the way, starting with the Triumph Gulf Coast approving the concept at the end of April, following along with various other contract approvals and term sheet approvals in August, in this very room, the County Commission voted to enter into the contract with Triumph Gulf Coast. So that was a red letter day for the future of economic development. You know that Shoal River Ranch is truly a catalytic site. It's 10,500 acres. About 2,000 acres of it is zoned industrial. You also know that in December of last year, also in this very room, the Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners voted to enter into a purchase option on 1,665 acres of that property. And so we've been collectively working this effort with respect to Shoal River Ranch for some time. Now here's where it gets really exciting. We know the water and sewer money is coming forward, so we're out, soon to be out, I should say, in a very targeted way, meeting with individuals and companies and consultants who can facilitate opportunities for Shoal River Ranch. So starting later this month in Atlanta, we're traveling up with a delegation comprised of Enterprise Florida, our state economic development partner, Gulf Power Company, and Power South, along with the EDC of Okaloosa County. And we will be conducting 2 presentations in Atlanta, one over lunch, one over breakfast, to a host of key facilitators, site selectors, who advise businesses on where to put new facilities. What's great about them is they tend to be clustered in markets like Atlanta and Dallas and New York and Chicago that are easy to get to. They have to travel to wherever their clients are. That's why they're in those markets. So when we want to meet with them, we can meet with a number of them at once. And certainly when we offer to feed them, you all know what food does. It attracts people. So we're doing just that. And we have put together a dynamic presentation with assistance from a marketing agency out of Pensacola, Duncan McCall. I tell you, it's going to be a very good effort. The team that we've put together is top-notch, and the fact that we have Enterprise Florida as the state economic development organization with us, standing shoulder to shoulder, focusing their attention specifically on Shoal River Ranch, speaks volumes to our audience. The fact that Enterprise Florida is that bullish on the future of this site and the future of this community is not something that is taken lightly. So we look forward to reporting back to you on that initiative. Again, the first event coming up here in just a couple of weeks. We'll be looking to target another market before the end of the year, and then in the first quarter of next year, the 2 remaining markets. So more to come there. Now, transitioning over to our project activity, Ms. Roy, I don't know if we have those pie charts. Yes, thank you. So right now, we have 21 active projects that the EDC is actively working. 4 of these are expansions of existing Okaloosa County operations. 13 of these opportunities we generated locally, meaning the EDC of Okaloosa County and our own business development efforts generated these as opposed to our utility partners or Enterprise Florida. So we continue to have a very high ratio of self-generated projects, which we're proud of, frankly. Now, moving on from that information, you can see that manufacturing continues to dominate our pipeline. 52% of our projects, so roughly 11 of those projects, are in the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing, we believe, is something that is a great target, if you will, for Shoal River Ranch, large-scale manufacturing specifically. In terms of job numbers, the next pie chart shows you the numbers of jobs in play. 1,111 jobs in play in our pipeline at present for the manufacturing sector. Aerospace and defense, we have 385 jobs in play. Some of those are related to our efforts, as mentioned, regarding the Farnborough Air Show and Bob Sykes Airport. And then headquarters tend to be a very strong sector represented there with 649 jobs in play. We have some users that are interested in some existing office space, which is very good to see. So with that, I'll transition to a quick report on the buildings that are getting the most traction, as I always like to conclude with. Here in Crestview, 408 Brookmead Drive, the 59,000, almost 60,000 square feet building that was previously occupied by Federal Express, is continuing to get a lot of interest. And we've had some discussions as recently as Friday about this building. We do understand that the ownership is now willing to consider subdivision, selective and in the right way. So potentially that 60,000-foot building could be 2 30,000-foot spaces with a common wall. And the building does sit up well for that type of configuration. The other, number 2 on the list is 2150 PJ Adams. That's 11 acres of property. Just about if memory serves, about a half mile down PJ Adams at the southeastern intersection of Ashley and Villacrest. At one point, I think there was a development order for a storage complex, storage facility, but that is on the market and getting a lot of interest, and certainly a part of your community that is growing very rapidly and will certainly benefit from our collective efforts regarding transportation, by the way. And then third on the list, 4100 Furdon, which is the Embassy Row complex. Some great office space in there in various shapes and sizes. About 7,500 or so square feet that's available. But you know, again, there's subcomponents of that are getting some traction. So those are the 3 that right now are getting the most interest. And based on that, we hope that that means that, you know, there's future opportunity for those specific properties. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that any of you may have.
Go ahead, Councilman Blocker.
Mr. Sparks,
Yes, sir.
I've been told, and I want your gut feeling,
Yes, sir.
that the feasibility of Shoal River Ranch could be shovel-ready July 2019. What's your feeling?
So what we're being told by our partners at Okaloosa County Water and Sewer is that with Triumph Gulf Coast requirement that the water and sewer project, including the various phases of the water and sewer in terms of engineering and construction, all must be bid, publicly bid. Originally, Okaloosa County was proposing to self-perform the work with their own crews. And that would have expedited it, frankly. But, you know, obviously Triumph Gulf Coast holds the purse strings, and they mandated that there be a public bid process, which adds about 6 months to what was going to be an 18-month timeline. So what we're hearing is 24 months, more or less. There can be, we believe, in the event that we get a user on the hook, there can be some expedition of that, and we're optimistic that we can do that. But at the same time, we don't want to overpromise. Yes, sir.
Councilman Hayes?
Thank you, Mr. Sparks.
Yes, sir.
Just a question, in your opinion, for concerning Shore River. We can think about what the possibilities are, and I think they're super great. The indirect effect on Crestview, what's your opinion of that if once they start developing it? I know they're going to develop it.
Well, and I share your belief in that, sir, and I'll tell you, my personal feeling is that it would be transformative for Crestview in a very positive way. I believe that given the proximity of the site, 7 miles from downtown, 7 miles to the east, as you know, on Highway 90, I think that Crestview truly is in the catbird seat to experience the bulk of the benefit. But when we're talking about the type of project that could land at Shore River Ranch, and we're talking about, potentially a large-scale original equipment manufacturer from the auto sector or from whatever industrial sector that would employ, potentially 1,000 or more individuals at a good wage, they're going to need services. They're going to need places to live. We have communities. Obviously, this is the fastest-growing community in Okaloosa County. And really one of the fastest growing communities in Northwest Florida for that matter. So you all are primed for the benefit of Shore River Ranch, but the benefit will extend far beyond Okaloosa County. And that is why Triumph Gulf Coast saw fit to make this the 4th project that they approved out of 150 applications. They get it. And I'm very pleased that they get it. While it took some education, it didn't take a lot of salesmanship to get them to understand the opportunity that exists and the fact that this is part of an overall vision that could truly positively transform this part of our region.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
We talk about our talented workforce, but are there any specific skills that people are looking for that we don't possess? They're not in abundance yet.
Yes, I mean, there are certainly pockets of skills that aren't here to the level that we need them to be. For instance, welding. Welding is one of those sectors that tends to be a chicken and the egg type scenario, where if you don't have the employment base, you're not going to have the school's focus on educating future welders. But thankfully, Northwest Florida State College, about 4 years ago, as you know, started a welding program. The downside of that is right now, not all, but a good number of those welders that are matriculating through that program are leaving the area and going to where the welding positions are. And welders make a handsome salary, in some cases upwards of 6 figures. And so that's a pocket that we want to see continue to grow, to your question. I think Northwest Florida State College, certainly their focus on career and technical education, along with the focus of Okaloosa Technical College and our own school district, is doing tremendous things in that space, as you know. I think when you step back from it all and look at all that has happened in the last several years to align education with the needs of business, we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we are head and shoulders ahead of some communities. And that's the message that I'm sharing when I'm out on the prospect trail.
Councilman Fairclough, go ahead.
Just for curiosity's sake, do you have any speculation whether or not once Shore River Ranch starts, the state may be more susceptible to putting in an interchange out there?
Yes, sir. I have been involved in some past discussions with the Florida Department of Transportation on that very topic. That is a long-term heavy lift, as we all know. But we've seen it happen. You know, I was in my prior life in Alabama when I was in economic development in Alabama. You know, Vance, Alabama certainly didn't have an interchange. Lincoln, Alabama, where Honda went, didn't have an interchange. These projects, these original equipment manufacturers in the auto sector in particular, when they land, because of the you know, $200, $300, $400, $500 million impact that you're talking about, sometimes well in excess of that, and the numbers of jobs you're talking about, you know, generally you find that opportunities present themselves for funding and political support that didn't previously exist when it was purely speculative. And so the good news for us is that when you look at where the overpass is on Jericho Road to connect the two pieces of Shoal River Ranch, where that overpass is presumably where a future interchange would be located. That is the correct distance from the interchange at Mossy Head. It's about 7 miles plus from the other interchange, and that is the minimum distance between interchanges. It's also about the same distance from the interchange here at 85. So numerically, it works. It's not too close to another interchange so that it would be immediately eliminated on that basis. But, you know, that's not to say that, you know, it's not going to take a long time and a lot of keen success out there. Our one major success that warrants it and that is supported by the powers that be locally, of course, and at the state level.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Sparks, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for the support.
We have no scheduled presentations, so this time we'll move to item 13A, discussion of the charter changes, and I'm going to take lead on that, only because, as you know, in the 28th August referendum, the people of Crestview approved the 3 amendments on there, which will ultimately change the form of government we have here in Crestview, and so we have to prepare to do that. Now, it's not effective till 1 October, and that's dictated by what we had in the charter itself. But here we are in September, and we need to start looking at that. So, in pursuit of that, I had a meeting last week with myself and the mayor and the city clerk and our administrative assistant to kind of formulate what we want to do and how we want to do it, so that we have a plan of what we need to do. And one of the things we talked around the table is, of course, going to be the timeline, and we can't do anything until, of course, 1 October. But we need to prepare to do that. And the charter has a paragraph in there on page 15 that talks about transitioning, and I'll just read it for you real quickly. And it says that the city council shall adopt such ordinances and resolutions as are required to effect the transition. And so that's what we sat around the table and talked about. What do we want to do? And do we want to do an ordinance or a resolution to effect the transition? And we determined by talking to the attorney that formulated the charter, we didn't have to do an ordinance because, again, our ordinance says on page 5, I believe it is, one of the pages, it says that once approved by the people of Crestview, the charter becomes effective 1 October. So we don't have to do an ordinance to do that. But we felt like we have to do a resolution to determine how we're going to approach things. So we talked about, do we want to do this piecemeal? That is, there are some things we could do effective as soon as we have a meeting after 1 October, and do the other portion when the city manager gets selected, which will be sometime probably in January, maybe February of next year, because we have to go through an RFQ process, and we take the applications, you have to do the screening, negotiations, and hiring, so that could take a little bit of time. Or do we want to wait and transition everything at the same time? So since we had some of the players there, we talked about the mayor's role. And again, on page 6, I think it was maybe that's the one that's on page 5, that describes the election and terms. And it says, all elected officials who are in office at the time of adoption of the charter shall continue in their office and their respective terms, and basically doesn't affect their responsibilities. So when I asked the mayor if he wanted to begin to chair the city council meeting, which he could do as soon as we pass the resolution, and his feeling was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he is still going to be the mayor over the police department and the fire department until the end of his term. And so he doesn't choose to also become the chairman of the city council, which doesn't bother me one way or the other. I could easily give it up if he wanted to do that, or I can remain as the chair until we make the full transition with the city manager and fire department, police department, and all those kind of things. So based on that, we came up with a conclusion, at least the four of us, that I would bring recommendations to y'all and let you decide what we need to do for the transition. And the things we discussed was the mayor remaining in place as the head of the city, the department head of the fire and police, until the end of his current term on 4/1/2018. Even if we get the city manager in here before that, because even when the city manager becomes the city manager, January, February, he's going to need some transition time with the mayor, with the fire department, the police department. He's going to need transition time with the growth management department, with the library and media services. He's going to need some transition time. So that was number one, to let the mayor remain in his office with his duties until the expiration of his term. And that would allow me, with your concurrence, of course, to remain the chairman of your, president of your council, instead of making the transition of a mayor pro temp. And then we would have to establish a job description for the city manager that would be approved by the city council. We would then have to do an RFQ for the city manager and approved by the city council. And to do that, we were going to have to come up with a timeline for the search, the vetting, and hiring the city manager. All, of course, approval by the city council. And all current departments will remain in the same until such time that the city manager has been vetted, hired, and in place, and is ready to assume the established duties. Now, in pursuit of that, I have asked the representative from the Florida County City Managers Association, Mr. Eddie, who came to one of my town hall meetings and came to Councilman Hayes' town hall meeting. He's been a city manager for over 30 years. He currently works for the Florida City and County Managers Association, and they will offer a assistance service to us at no cost. And so in pursuit of that, I'm going to meet with him along with the city clerk, who serves as our personnel manager. And that's why the RFQ will be coming from personnel for the job description. But we don't really know what that's going to be. So our city clerk has gotten some recommendations from other cities. And we are going to meet with Mr. Eddie on Wednesday and get some recommendations from him on the timeline, RFQs, vetting process. If we get as many as we've been told, I've been told by Ms. Eddie to expect 50 to 60. We obviously are not going to interview 50 to 60 people, so we have to describe that process. Who's going to help us narrow it down to a manageable amount? And so we'll kind of get a recommendation from Mr. Eddie, and we'll bring that all back to the city council, because ultimately y'all are going to make the decision. But I just want to help move it along by trying to meet ahead of time and getting recommendations to bring back to y'all. Now, having said that, I would like the city clerk to add anything that I might have left on it and what we want to do with the resolution.
Well, the plan at this point, we've already, at the last meeting, the growth management director requested a special meeting after our public hearing for the budget on September the 24th. So the plan is at this point to these factors that have already been discussed by Mr. Whitten, to bring forth a resolution at that meeting to get started about the factors. Now, hopefully, after we meet with Mr. Eddie next week, we'll be able to pull together for the workshop on the 24th, immediately after the resolution is passed, a job description, an RFQ, so that all that can be discussed and then approved on October the 8th at our regular meeting. And if everything's approved on October the 8th, then on October the 9th, everything will go out. So depending on the timeline that Mr. Eddy recommends, the other cities that I've contacted and looking at the RFQs, it's anything from a 45 to 60-day process just for the applications. He may recommend a shorter time period because he's already been working with a couple of cities around here. But the factors, and we discussed this in the meeting last week, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got New Year's, so you've got a lot of factors in there when we may not be able to get these selection committees together. So what we'll be discussing at the RFQ is the timeline, the charter, and the changes to set up the timeline for the resolutions. And then at the workshop, we'll be discussing the finalization of the RFQ, anything else you want in there, anything else you want in the job description. There's some other factors that I was just realizing today when we were talking about the mayor's role. It's in the city clerk's role, there's also some charter jobs that really can't be changed unless we choose to change them, or I choose to give them up once the city manager's in place. So there's some other factors in there, but that's down the road after the city manager's in place, and we really don't have to worry about that at this point. Because once we get a city manager in place, or as we approach the city manager, just about every department head description in the city is going to have to be changed, because all of them say they either report to the mayor or they report to the council. So all those have got to be redone as we work through this process. So there's a lot of work to be done to get the city manager in place, to get him here. That's obviously the first process, but there's a lot more than just hiring a city manager and handing him the keys to the building.
And let me add to that, the reason that we're meeting with Mr. Eddy privately, not because we're trying to do anything in secret. I invited him to come to the workshop on the 24th, the guy through the RFQ process, and he can't do that. I mean, if we had somebody else and anybody else in mind, that's fine, but so far, he's been very helpful to us. He's come over here and met with me before, met with Mr. Councilman Hayes before, and he represents the organization that will help us advertise this job. So what we're looking for tonight basically is a consensus that the city clerk would come and address these things that were given out to you and bring it back as a resolution for the special meeting on the 24th of September. So I need to hear from you how you feel about that. Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. President, I think that's a good idea. We're about to undertake a serious action for the city, and I just know that we're not going to rush into whatever we do, but I have consensus that we go forward with this.
Any other comments, questions? Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Blocker.
I just want to recommend and make sure that our attorney has the opportunity to be kept in the loop of all these developments on this charter change period.
That's a good point, valid point. Obviously, that'll happen.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Cox, go ahead.
Yes, I'm okay with what you're discussing here, but I have one question and issue on the charter itself that was adopted on May 29th. If memory serves me correctly, that meeting was called on a short notice because I was out of town and missed that. But that said, on 6, describing mayor duties, about 3/4 of the way down, says the mayor may veto any official ordinance of the city council subject to the limitations hereinafter prescribed. But it doesn't, there's no verbiage in there that gives the condition if there were a mayoral veto of an ordinance, the condition for council to override a mayoral veto. I don't see that. Mr. Hollick, can you check on?
Mr. President, I think that was an old charter, the procedures for what you do, and it could be overridden by 3/5 of the vote. I can't remember.
Yeah, but
It's
what
not
Councilman Cox
spelled
is
out.
saying, he's saying,
It should be spelled out there if that condition were to apply. I don't see it.
the problem is, I don't see it either, and I could have sworn we had it in there, but the problem is, this is the charter that was voted on by,
Yeah.
not just us,
Yeah.
but by the citizens.
It's in section D. Under that, it says that every ordinance passed by the city council before becoming law shall be presented to the mayor within 5 business days. If, unless exercising veto power, the mayor shall sign it and return to the city clerk the signature. If the mayor fails to return any ordinance to the city clerk, it'll be passed anyway, unless the ordinance is vetoed by the mayor, be deemed to approve the ordinance, and it shall become law. So if he vetoes it, it has to come back to the council.
But
Okay, but what is the condition?
To override the mayor's veto of an
Yes.
ordinance by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the entire council.
Okay,
So it is in there.
Yeah, I thought
Thank
it
you.
was. All right, so it's in different sections. Good, I thought it was in there. We just hit it. All hidden, okay.
I'm good.
Thank you, Councilman Collins. Okay, so, you agreement to, let the city clerk go ahead and make up the resolution that will address these items that I just discussed. And she'll bring them back and we can discuss and vote on them at that time. Good. Thank you. The next item, I'll try to be succinct about this because we got a lot going on. Mr. Sparks, again, thank you for coming. Have a safe trip home. City Government Week, we've already determined this begins the 22nd of October to the 26th of October. The 22nd, we're having a special meeting over at Warriors Hall, and we decided to put it over there because we're going to make this a grandiose meeting. It's not going to be one where we have an open house and we have just a few people show up. I have already contacted the Chamber of Commerce and asked them to minimum have the CEO and the Board of Directors at this meeting. I've contacted the division director of the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and Girl Scouts, because they're the only ones that supported us last time. And they will be here en masse. I have coordinated with the student government advisor at Crestview High School to have the student government here at that time. Won't be the whole student government because there's like 21 students, at least the officers from the student government is what I said I would like them here as a minimum. I have also made it known to, I left my notes at home.
Sister City. Sister City.
Sister cities will be here because we're going to do a special proclamation to Mayor Fauché from Nomotier. So they will be here, and at minimum will be at least the chaperones. I don't know if they're going to bring 21 middle school students in. Hopefully it'll be the chaperones anyway. I've also invited the Kiwanis Club because we have a partnership with them. They come in and do the environmental park with us. And so what we kind of be doing, people, is having segments out there that we can recognize them. As a city government, we want to thank you all for what you're doing for the city. The other night, we gave out the award for the Citizen of the Year. It went to Ms. Claudius Dale. I've asked her to come back at this meeting so that we can have her stand up and let everybody see who the Citizen of the Year is. And just today, it occurred to me that we probably ought to have the Special Olympians come in. And I don't think Mia Manganello, I won't say that word, maybe won't make it back, but maybe her mom and dad could be here or something like that, recognize her. And I just thought of somebody else, NORC, the North Okaloosa Amateur Radio Club. They have a memorandum of agreement, the city, to support us. So we're kind of reaching out, and we're gonna have a big thing. And then public services, and I'm sure you know this, because I've already coordinated this with Wayne. Because we're not going to be a city hall and try to put 5 or 10 people in an office. We're going to have tables all around Warriors Hall. One table will be for the mayor and the city council, city clerk. All the department heads will have a table. And everybody, when the meeting breaks up, and it's not going to be a real long meeting, we're going to spend a lot of time recognizing people. And then we're probably going to do, Teresa, we decided maybe 2 votes to demonstrate the procedures to our student government. We want to see them government action. We don't want to see we just gather and have cake. We want to go through some, we're going to make it a small meeting and focus on the people that are there and have the opportunity to interface with everybody afterwards. And they have to meet with at least 3 people or they can't have a piece of cake. Well, maybe not. But anyway, that's planning for the city council meeting. On Tuesday, I firmed it up with Bill Tarnan to have the elected officials coffee at Casbar Coffee at 8 a.m. in the morning, like we did last time. So that'll be up and running. And on Wednesday, and I'll let Marie, if you want to tell us, because we kind of threw the challenge out there because we want to do an event where students could be available to see the police and the fire. And so Marie is working with the police and the fire and coordinated with the library where everything's going to be done over there. Would you speak to that a little bit, Marie? If you move the mic a little bit closer, if you would, please.
So police and fire, they're going to bring the SWAT and canine and fire truck, hopefully. Also, we're going to do a display
And they're going to all be in the parking lot in the library.
on the east side, yeah, so we'll have to
At what
coordinate that.
time?
5 to 7.
5 to 7? And you're going to have something set up inside the library too, right?
Right, a display for the sister city, free books for people who sign up for library cards, and refreshments for all.
Good.
What date was that?
Wednesday,
That'll be on
24th.
Wednesday, I guess the 24th. They see what that'll do is that'll draw all the people in one location where
Yeah.
they can,
We'll have the
interact with
traffic
police,
of
the
early
fire, and the
voting,
library
so,
services.
yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Cox.
Yes, when can, I see a proposed outline of what we're doing here? As far as I know, we only talked generally about this several weeks ago.
No, actually, you gave me permission to use the same outline we had last year.
Oh.
And I'm working it now, but I'm still working it, so I can't, I mean, we have the outline of what we're going to do each day. We discussed that at the meeting. That were
Did
gonna-
we?
Yes, we
Oh.
did.
What day is that?
Um, There was no discussion.
Excuse me, but there was. Does anybody else remember the discussion we had on city government week at our last meeting?
It was beyond yesterday, no.
Am I making this all up, or did we not have a
No,
discussion?
Mr. President, if I may.
Yeah, go
You addressed the issue, I mean, what happened last week, the visitors that we had that did come to City Hall and you wanted to expand, you mentioned about the Boy Scouts, the lack of, people that came out to the event, and we wanted to expand beyond that, so I know we did discuss it.
Yeah, did I not say that 2 weeks before they had the opportunity to bring things to the meeting? And I asked for inputs and got none, and I said, are you comfortable with going with the schedule we had last year? And you all said yes. Maybe Mr. Cox didn't say yes, but everybody else did.
But it was a cursory discussion, for the lack of a better term, but we pretty much eliminated a couple of things that didn't work last year. But I was hoping that we would get set down on paper for the week. So
We will as soon as everything's coordinated. I mean, I'm still in the coordination, but if Councilman Cox would rather do the coordination, I will gladly turn it over to him. Is that what you'd like?
I'm sorry, that wasn't my point.
Oh, okay.
But I do have a point on the Friday, when you get to the Friday, so I'll,
Okay, when we get to Friday, you can give us your
all
objection.
right.
But this 24th is on Wednesday, right?
Yes, it is.
I just want to make sure, because I have Tuesday meetings. They having a school board meeting
Right.
tonight, and I'm over here because this was set before there.
But that'll be at the library on the 24th. And you don't have to be there. That'll be the fire and the police.
This Wednesday, I can be there, right?
Okay. On the 25th, that's a Thursday, I'll probably have, that'll be my town hall meeting, if that's okay with, oh, never mind, I won't go there. And then on Friday, we'll have the serving at Hub City Smokehouse, if you choose to participate. And if you don't, that's okay. There's no individual up here that has to participate in anything they don't want to, except city council meeting. You have to come whether you want to or not. But anything else, you make your own decision on that. But the decision was made to mirror what we did last year, and I will get a written schedule out as soon as I've got everything firmed up. Any other comments? Yes, Councilman Fairclough.
I would suggest that if you don't have an apron already, talk to Mike Carroll.
Get fixed up.
So we don't want you to spill barbecue sauce on your shoes.
There's one other event, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead,
Mr.
Mr.
President, is that each year that the visitors come, I do a welcome picnic or barbecue. This year it's going to be on Saturday, October 20th. It'll be at the college there by the garden that we planted them for that. So that'll be at noon, and we will have static displays and everything from public safety. So, but everyone is welcome to that.
Isn't there also a lunch on the 22nd with elected officials? I
Is that the
think?
one at Casbah?
Casbar.
Yeah.
I think it's on the 22nd.
This one's for all the visitors, and their chaperones come too.
Okay, all right. Yes, Councilman Cox.
Okay, what is the date on the Hub City Smokehouse?
Friday, the 26th.
Okay. May I speak a little? Okay, you did this last year, except for me, because I was on the 50-yard line at Niceville Stadium for Crestview football team, and there were more citizens from Crestview there than there was Niceville, and they won the game. So I was there from before 5 o'clock till the end. So, but although well-intended, I don't think it's a good idea for City Government Week for this event. This is not showing volunteerism to the citizenry. I've personally patronized Hub City Smokehouse many times. Same place as last year. That should show favoritism and precedence, and just
Well, Councilman Cox,
I
what I'll
question
do
that,
is-
and I still have the floor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know what this has to do with city government. I would instead propose considerations of helping Parks and Recreation personnel, or I don't see the fire guys, but waxing those new fire engines, or riding with a patrol officer, or even biking. So just some suggestions. And sorry I didn't have the input several weeks ago, but there wasn't much discussion. So others didn't get little or no input. So
You done?
there, yes.
It's hard to have discussion when you don't have input. That's all I can say. And if you want to arrange a different event on Friday, feel free to do that, and we can vote on changing the event that I've scheduled and go to some event that you want. You go ahead and work on that, Councilman Cox, and get back to me. Okay, moving right along. And that is staff reports and recommendations, ordinance 1666. Did I miss something?
Mr.
Item
Hayes.
C. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Discussion of upcoming meetings and travel, Councilman Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to keep this short. As you may or may not know, I try to keep our city involved in with the state quite as much as possible, and by that, I sit on several committees within the state. The state president, new Leo Longsworth, just appointed me to his executive committee, which keeps me going. They compensate me for just going there, and also, I sit on the board of directors, which they compensate for me too. I just want to inform the city, because I know we have a budget set aside for that, that in September the 14th, there's a legislative committee, which I sit on, the Land Use and Economic Development, which involves the CRA, and also the economic development, which I think is important to our city. So I selected to sit on that. This will be my third year on that. That we're having a meeting in September the 14th. As you know, as I've been doing before, I've been bearing some of the expenses. I just want to let the city know that we have the money in the budget to cover traveling and everything, and that I will be requesting assistance with part of this right here. Also on October the 12th, this is in Orlando. Everything's always in Orlando,
Oh,
or south.
yeah.
But on October 12th, we also have another meeting with the legislative committee that I sit part of, and it's going to be back in Orlando too, and that I will be submitting reimbursement voucher from that unless the council has opposition. Just want to keep you informed.
Let me ask you this, Councilman Hayes, do you think that maybe we should have looked at embellishing the travel account a little bit more than we normally do? You don't think it's gonna go beyond what we normally
No,
budget?
sir, I don't, and I'll tell you why, Mr. President. You and I were the only one that utilized some, the majority of those, well, not even the majority of the funds, but some funds that go down there. The rest of it's still sitting there.
Yeah, that was unusual though, that the only two of us went.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even with that, there's, Madam Clerk can tell you, there's.
Yeah, but I'm looking at next fiscal year.
Well, when that comes up, then we can address that.
Okay.
There,
All right.
there is plenty of money left from this year, and we didn't even use the training budget, so we should be in good shape.
All right, good.
Mr. President, I do have,
Yeah, go
things
ahead,
here I do need to. I do want to go back and mention the transition with the city manager. I hope that person will be in place as quickly as possible after the first of the year, because I think it is going to take some time with becoming very familiar with the police department and the fire department. I want to have plenty of time for this new person to learn the history of both groups and where we are and everything like that. And I do will tell you that I'll work very hard on making that transition as smooth as possible. I do want to tell you too that the recent investigations that we were doing in the department have been completed, and I've been working with Mrs. Roy I want to post the position, hopefully this month, of the permanent police chief, and we'll be getting that out there and letting folks know, and you can see what the qualifications will be for that. And I do mention also that, sorry, I just looked at my schedule on that 26th, and there's a thing that's the night of the 80th Big Red Machine anniversary. And since I spent about a third of that there myself, I probably won't miss it.
26th of
October.
October.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big deal that night, so it's also the Niceville game, so I'm regretful I won't be able to the other one, so, but I can't miss this one, I don't think.
No, you can't do that.
Okay. Councilman Faircloth, you have anything for us?
No, nothing at this time.
Councilman Hayes, anything else?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, thank you. Just a couple of things, if you, I think everyone has a package of this, not the color one, I didn't have enough of this, but, our new president, Leo Longworth from Bartow, where I was down this week in that area, this is gonna be his, theme for this. We live locally, and, as you might be or might not be aware of the difficulties that we had to go through last year with our elected officials down in Tallahassee, the home rule that they were trying to invade and take things away from us. This year, it's going to be we're striving towards education viewpoint, where we're educating our constituents about local rule and local government. We eat local, we shop local, we work local, we give local, we serve local, so why not let us run our city local is a big issue that we're looking at, so everybody's aware of that. Also, we have amendments that are coming up to our Constitution. It's wise that we really look at those, and especially Amendment 1, and that our citizens are educated on that, and I'm probably going to be doing a town hall on some of the amendments right here concerning that. I talked with Sharon Barron, which is with the League of Cities. She's willing to come up here when we can ever schedule her for our youth council, which, I've been mentioning for the last couple of years about the youth council. She's over that area, and she will gladly come up here and do a workshop or whatever and tell us how to get started with that, the things we do, and help us get started. Right now, we have Niceville and Fort Wallen, but we're not. I think we need one. I think we really need one. With that, Mr. President, that's all for me.
All right, thank you. Councilman Blocker.
A man of few words. I adopted a policy when I became part of this city legislative group. I don't want to put myself in a position voluntary that will be a burden on my city. Cost conscious, but I say keep our city involved, but watch what we do.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Cox? The only thing I would, Councilman Blocker, you know the date of our next TPO meeting?
I think it's Thursday week or 2
Is it?
weeks.
Do you know, Councilman Cox?
A
The
week,
exact date.
a week from Thursday, I believe.
I guess the bottom line is,
Yeah.
they're all important. Are we all gonna be able to be there?
Should be the 20th.
The 20th, 3 o'clock, Defuniak.
Yeah, that's right, it's over in Walton County.
Yeah.
And we're all gonna be there? That's
Yeah.
good, okay. All right, now we're gonna move on to ordinance 1666. Someone's going on vacation. You're on vacation? All right, you got it.
Ordinance number 1666 reads by title. An ordinance of the City of Crestview, Florida, vacating and abandoning the platted 75-foot wide right-of-way of Main Street being renamed Maypole Street, lying between and adjacent to Block 41 and Block 42, as shown on the T.W. Coleman survey map of the town of Crestview, and the reservation of non-exclusive perpetual easement for utility and ingress-egress purposes, provide for maintenance thereof, providing for update of the Crestview-based zoning land and land use maps, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for filing of this ordinance with the clerk of the circuit court of Okaloosa County, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance 1666.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, the First Baptist Church of Crestview, Inc., as property owners of Block 42 and the southern half of Block 41, as shown on T.W. Coleman's survey map of the town of Crestview, dated August 1st, 1928, according to plat that was recorded January 5th, 1929, same being on file in Plat Book 1, page 72, of the official of the Office of the Clerk of Circuit Court of Okaloosa County, has submitted a request to vacate that portion of Maypole Street that runs between the two blocks. The area is currently used for parking, ingress, egress between the church's location and the more commonly known as the Burger King restaurant. There are numerous utility elements located within the right-of-way. The request was actually submitted under the provisions of the city's procurement guide for processing rezoning and property vacation applications. It was submitted by the First Baptist Church and was sent via certified mail to the other property owner adjacent to the right-of-way. There was no response from that particular property owner. There was no response from the property owner when the city also mailed. The City of Crestview will reserve a right and retain a non-exclusive perpetual easement on, over, under, and across the right-of-way that's being vacated and abandoned for use for utility and ingress-egress purposes. The First Baptist Church will accept the responsibility of maintenance of the surface area of the vacated right-of-way, which shall be continued to be utilized as parking. The parking area shall be maintained as required in Chapter 102, Article 8, Section 102, 155C2 of the City Code of Ordinances. Is
Any
there
questions?
question?
We reviewed this, what, during a workshop, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have any questions about it. Okay, could I have action, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Walker.
I move to adopt ordinance 1666 in first reading and move it to the second reading.
Second?
I have motion second to adopt ordinance 1666 on first reading and move to second reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Presentation on Title VI non-discrimination policy and plan.
Okay, gentlemen,
And we're not going through the whole manual. You're gonna describe the need for it, right?
33 pages.
Okay, I will be very fast. Okay. You may not understand me, but I can read very fast.
No.
Okay.
We've had this for a few days anyway.
Yeah, you've had this for a few days. The city of Crestview is working towards becoming LAP certified. What is LAP? LAP is a local agency program. It's the mechanism that allows the local agency to obtain federal reimbursement for local transportation projects under FDOT supervision. Who's the local agency? An entity that is less than a statewide. It can be a county, an incorporated municipality, an MPO, traffic authority, a road and bridge or organization, district or a regional government. It cannot be a private corporation or a private organization. What's the benefits of being certified? We will gain the ability to obtain federal reimbursement for local transportation priorities that may not be eligible through any other funding sources, but this will be via federal aided funds through the Florida Department of Transportation. The funding can be used for project planning, project development, design, right-of-way location, acquisition, construction. Another benefit of the certification will be allowing the city to administer transportation alternative grants on our own without being dependent upon the services of Okaloosa County. It will improve our ability to receive funding from the source for the projects such as sidewalk design, constructions, bicycle facilities, road intersection improvements for pedestrian safety, and such other transportation needs. There's full certification. There's also project-specific certification. One part of the LAP certification will bring the city of the LAP certification effort is bringing the city of Crestview into compliance with numerous federal regulations that are compiled together, known as the program Title VI. The program protects people from discrimination based on race, color, and national origin in any program that receives federal funding. The establishment of the program is to serve to open up other funding opportunities for various improvement projects, which in turn will improve the services to the city that the city can provide to its citizens. The municipality at times are recipients of federal funds, and if so, they must comply with Title VI, which is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, along with the other non-discriminatory regulations, which is in Section 502, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, the Age Discrimination Act of 1975, the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1973, Civil Rights Restorative Act of 1987, and the Florida Civil Rights Act of 1992. This will ensure that no person is subject for discrimination basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, disability, religion, or family status in the employment or the provision of governmental services. The requirement to include the creation of the Title VI non-discriminatory plan, along with regular review and effectiveness and conformity with federal and state law, is a mandatory part of the certification. The non-discriminatory plan works in concert with limited English proficiency plan, which identifies special tactics to outreach, such as notification, information, opportunities for diverse participation. The program formalizes the city of Crestview's commitment to ensure that no person is excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or otherwise subject to discrimination under its programs, activities, services based on race, color, or national origin. All people, regardless of their citizenship, are covered under this regulation. In addition, the city prohibits discrimination based on race, color, national origin in its employment and its business opportunities. The city of Crestview will not condone retaliation against an individual for his or her involvement in asserting his or her rights pursuant to Title VI or because she or he has filed a complaint or participated in an investigation under Title VI. As a recipient of federal funds, as well as being a recipient of Florida Department of Transportation funds, the city will ensure that its programs, policies, activities will comply with all federal and FDOT Title VI regulations for all the agencies that were named above. The city will review its Title VI program once every 3 years to ensure compliance for the federal and state Title VI requirements. Those are, the city will maintain the list of Title VI investigation, complaints, lawsuits filed to allege city's discrimination against a person or group basis of race, color, national origin. The list includes your date, your summary of the allegation, the status of the investigation, and any corrective measures taken. The city will ensure a level and quality of all city services are provided without regards to race, color, or national origin. The city will promote full and fair participations for all affected populations. The city will make good faith efforts and achieve environmental justice as part of the mission of identifying and addressing all appropriate and disproportionately high adverse human, health, or environmental effects of its programs, activities, and services of minority populations or low-income populations within the city service area as provided herein. The city will ensure the limited English proficiency individuals have access to city programs, activities, and services. The city will seek out and consider the viewpoints of the minority, low-income, and limited English proficiency populations in the course of conducting public outreach and involvement activities. The city's public participation strategies will offer early and continuous opportunities for the public to be involved in the identification of social, economic, and environmental impacts and proposed transportation decisions. The city will ensure that individuals have access to the programs, activities, services, and development, and carrying them out in a language plan herein. Demographics plays a large factor within the city. We will use the 4 factors in order to determine the LEP, which is your limited English. It's in your book. It's in the part where your pages are actually numbered.
Page 6. Yeah.
If you look on page 16, you go 16, 17. On page 18 of 23 from the plan, it will show you your percentage of persons that were the number in the percentage. If you base a population of 23,856 and how it breaks down into different races and populations there. Your factor 4 begins on the second page where you evaluate your demographics, which show that, and this comes basically from the 2010 census, which is very important because our 2020 census is on its way. They deemed 20,873 people, citizens, and of that, we have only approximately 84 people that say they do not speak English very well. So it breaks it down with they speak English very well, they speak English well, they do not speak English very well, they do not speak English at all. We have none in there except for your Asian and Pacific that actually have 11 people that do not speak English at all. At that point in time, we had approximately 84 people out of the 2,873, which is a 0.4% level of Spanish-speaking and Indo-European and Pacific Island who could not understand the English language. Because of the demographics is such a small percentage, we'll skip the explanatory paragraphs there. You can read them at your leisure. Due to the limited number that do not speak English well in the city will provide translated materials only upon request in a timely and efficient manner. Your factor 2, which is your frequency of contact. The city of Crestview has regular public hearings, board meetings, committee meetings throughout the year. In addition, the city can offer utility services, code enforcement activities. And the contact will be administered there. Anyone needing translation will also request. We have bi-monthly city council meetings. We have monthly as-needed committee meetings. We have recreational services, which will be on an as-needed or as-requested service. Utility service would be as used. Code enforcement activities will be case by case, and permitting services as requested. Sources available could be a bilingual employee, special assistance notice for meeting, the LEP notice on all agendas, Spanish language material as needed, case-by-case response, and also the I Speak identification cards. And if this is generally a representation of your I Speak, it's one that a person would have, and on it, just if you take one and pass it down, just so you understand what an I Speak is. It simply introduces us it is their name that they speak limited English. It is in, this particular one is in English and also translated into Spanish so that it would be, and normally it is a card that you would put on they put on their person, or it's in a carabiner which carries around their neck. This would identify that they do need help in understanding. It can be translated into at least 46 of the most common languages that we have. Factor 3, your importance of the program. Of course, the outreach and programs that would be most important would be those that are possessing policy and involvement, something that would be effective. The events such as community events, optional meetings, specialized speakers, all have the lower priority on the line and would preclude any organization from excluding all language assistance options. And 4 is your resources. Of course, an organization will maintain a file of specific contact information for service providers and volunteer-based programs, which would allow for a way that you reach out in order to have the data translated. They give you a resource and cost chart, which is kind of general. You can translate per page. You can have an interpretation service, but you can see that gets rather expensive, $75 to $100 an hour. You can have notice, which are those are in your book. They're actually pre-printed notices that we allow in your book in the earlier pages. You can see where it is actually translated English and Spanish. We can do other should we need it. And that's generally our outreach in a nutshell. You have that we will implement the plan, and it also has maintenance for the plan. In compliance, to assure compliance with current and federal state law, we update demographic statistics to be accurately checked by the Northwest Florida Population and Language Needs, confirm the City of Crestview's commitment to provide services to people with limited English proficiency, and provide an assessment of the plan's effectiveness in addressing non-discrimination objectives. And we have a typical checklist shown, and we actually show you the information reaped from the census, that background that shows our background information. Is there any questions?
Would you repeat that in French, please?
Mr. President,
Let's pull that up on YouTube and translate it.
Mr. President.
I do have a question, and that is, do we have this in effect right now? Or are we just putting it into effect?
No, sir, we do not have a plan in effect
Okay,
right
because
now.
when you look at all the years these things have been around. So who's going to be the monitor of the program?
Okay, it will require in there, you will see the, I skipped the part where we
Well, I don't want you to
went
add
back through
anything.
here. Let,
No, just simple question. I just want to know who,
it is the coordinator. There is a coordinator here, and it is mandated by, that they have training, and all the programs and services for the reach out and for the plan and the policy will be handled by your coordinator, your
I understand that.
proficiency
but
coordinator.
who-
That's her
Who
title.
is the coordinator? That's what I want to know.
Okay, in here, the only person that we have with the training for the coordinator, and that's their title, that's their position. It will be someone who is proficient and has taken the training classes, and we have had Mr. Dooley has went through, in his striving to get the LAP certification has been to approximately half the required classes. So for the time being, until we can put somebody else in place, he would be our only choice. And that what they would do is they coordinate the recipients of the complaints, and they do the research on it. They would track your records, and more or less it's the bells and whistles of what makes the plan work. With only a 0.4% of the population being unable to understand the English language or to speak it very well, it's not going to be a full-time position.
You know, you say it doesn't have much impact, but you do know the courts has ruled that a supervised election has to do all bilingual ballots now. You have to go out and do all ballots in Spanish for Okaloosa County. That was just ruled 2 or 3 days ago. So you never know when it's going to come around.
Well, you never know. With this census, it will have to be updated and pertain to the new census that will be out. We may be surprised to find the increase that there will be.
All right, any other questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead,
I just
Councilman.
have one question, and it was similar to what you're saying, but since you brought it up, since he's only halfway,
Yes, he has, I think, one more class to go. As a matter of fact, that's where he's at now. They're in class
okay.
for the week. So there are, these are avenues over at, that are put out by the Florida Department of Transportation. And like I say, we have taken advantage of the free training that will allow us to participate. And will allow us to reach the certification level. Presently, the Okaloosa County actually handles us as they're like our support person, and they have to do all the management and over for us to do any TA grants. If you remember, we've recently gotten several grants for sidewalks and pedestrian elements. So this will just put us where we can stand on our own feet.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Since we kind of went through the brunt of this, what would we be doing at a workshop that we haven't done here?
Just if there's something in depth you want, if you want comparison between the different cities. This was a composite of FDOT's documentation, the Northwest Florida Regional Center, Planning Center, and the city of Crestviews.
All right.
Now, and based on the administrative code, if you are looking, you will notice that when you check other municipalities, you can check your policy at Okaloosa County. They have a very little, just their policy statement, their complaint procedure, and their Title VI complaint form. They have the non-discrimination coordinator, who is Grant Dungy, who is an executive assistant with the Okaloosa BCC.
All right.
So, and they have a simplistic form, simple as what we
But
have.
the bottom line is, unless we want to do more research, if we don't have an issue with this, I don't see why it would be a workshop item. If we're happy with it, if we do all this research and we're unhappy with something, we'll bring it back and get it approved, but I can't see needing a workshop to go through this whole thing. I don't see it. What do you think, Dr. Carr?
No, don't think
No
so.
opinion?
No.
Not unless we're going to all sit there and read this thing.
If we do some research and we have some objections to it, I guess.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay,
Well, it was, like, as I say, we went and, because other things have been changed, we did not respond, but we have the others that are around Destin's and Okaloosa counties. Okaloosa counties is fairly similar to this one. With the new regulations for this year, this one was put out by the FDOT and the West Florida
Alright.
Planning. So
Alright,
we
let's
trust
move on
pretty
to-
much it.
outstanding task.
Okay. I did not receive everybody's sheet, so I can tell you there's only 3 elements that is not in a tie. Number 1, the highest need, the Title VI non-discrimination policy and plan.
Because I think you said we had to have this by 1 October or something. So I made it pretty
Yes.
high.
Yes, sir. We've had 15 tasks. We have one, the land use and zoning incompatibility was actually at this point with 3 highs.
Well, without giving names, how many inputs did you get? 3?
I got 4.
4, okay.
Okay. High, with just 1 medium, is itinerant vendors. So those are the 3s. Under medium, we've got the addressing update. And I just want to clarify to y'all, when it says revision of Chapter 38, Health and Sanitation, I was a little surprised at that being low. That is the new verbiage for our code enforcement official to be incorporated into our code. So if anybody would like to take another look at that.
Well, what are you going to do with what you have right now? That's,
What do I have?
what are you going to do with the input you have right now?
The input I have right now, I'm going to check policies, the non-discriminating policies plan. Check it off the list because you'll have an ordinance. If you do not wish it to go to the workshop, you will have an ordinance the next time you see it. Matter of fact, actually, it's a resolution and we've already got it formed. That puts land use and zoning incompatibility or itinerant vendors, and if I have to choose, I would put itinerant vendors, but we will wait for the next person to put their judgment in there.
No, the 5th person, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
the 5th person, if that's also a high, that's the next thing you're going to see is your
Okay,
vendors.
how long are you going to wait for that?
Tomorrow. It's me, Mr. President. It's me.
Well, you don't have to mess up.
No,
Mr. Hayes, would you like to put an H in that spot?
I had it, Mr. President, I had it the same night, and I put it in my book, and I've been gone, and she's got to give it another look. I don't know. But the itinerary vendor is my high priority.
Okay, well,
I know that right now.
Okay.
Then we're off and running on that anyway.
Mr.
Oh.
President,
Yes, Councilman Fitzgerald.
I'm sorry, excuse me for interrupting, but when you went to each one of us a while ago and asked if we had anything to say, I did, but I couldn't remember. It's itinerant vendors. I've been contacted by 2 car dealers in
You're
town.
not alone.
They have me on speed dial.
And I talked to one of them today at lunch, and I've been kicking this around in my head for quite a while, trying to come up with something that would be fair, but yet protect the businesses in Crestview. And after speaking with the one I spoke with today, he suggested that we put in our ordinance that anyone that wants to come put up a tent and bring in 400 cars has to have an acceptable repair facility, car repair facility.
If I remember correctly, you done?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, we have a draft of that, because we worked on that a while ago.
We
And
did.
So what we need to do is bring the draft to the workshop, and then we can add and detract from that draft that we already have.
Well, my suggestion is, since you are not going to need the workshop for your Title VI, that we bring the vendors to the workshop.
Sure. Well, I mean, it sounds good to me. That's, we prioritize them, and
Which workshop is that?
you know, which one is that?
That is the one we were talking about.
20
We were just filling up on the 24th.
24th,
24th?
24th September. Yeah, I feel comfortable with that.
Is that, what, 5?
You do those at 5:30, right?
Well, that we have a special meeting in front of it.
5:30, so.
Special meeting is at 5:30.
That's
And
the-
what
that's
else was the other thing?
approval of the
Budget's at 5:15.
budget at 5:15.
The special meeting's at 5:30, and we can make the workshop, you just got, what, 2 things at the, we'll have a resolution and whatever you were gonna bring on the 24th. Is it a ordinance?
On the 24th of September?
Yeah, you asked for a special meeting.
So a special meeting is a short one, did you say?
I don't know, because you'd
I'd
asked
have
for
to
it.
look at my schedule.
You'd asked for it last time, but we're gonna do the resolution for the city manager, but we can have the workshop start at 5:45 or as soon as the special meeting's over. We
Right.
don't have to wait till 6 o'clock
Right.
to start the workshop.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't put it a definite time, I just put it as soon thereafter.
Because
All right,
the
so we have the
the
budget.
budget hearing shouldn't last 5
The
minutes.
budget, you said is 5:15? I'll look at that fancy little calendar you gave us. And then special meeting at 5:30? And then the workshop?
Immediate.
As soon
following
as
the special
possible.
meeting,
We can
Okay.
put 5:45 or as soon thereafter if we have to have a time.
Okay, good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let me go around the room before we open up to all the people in the audience. So, Madam Clerk, do you have anything for us?
No, I did hand out the calendars if anybody has anything to add, and when we get the finalization for the city government week, I will put that on the calendar and resend it, but if there's anything else you need on there, please let me know.
One
Okay.
point. Mr. President. Monday, October 22nd, council meeting at Warriors Hall will be held in council chambers.
Okay.
Will be
It's
held in
the
what?
temporary council chambers at Warriors Hall.
That's what it says.
Okay. All right, we'll fix that.
Temporary
Mr.
council chambers.
Mr. Hall, you have anything for us? Okay. Public services, nothing. Police.
Oh, I do have one thing. The homecoming parade is is on October the 5th, so everybody needs to.
That's
It's not.
homecoming by October. We'll have a meeting before that, and
Yes.
remind everybody.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Murray, you have anything for us?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Trees, you have anything else for us?
Yes, I do. The mention of the youth council, Steve Schoen has already reached out to set up a presentation by the representative for the youth council. So, we'll coordinate with that. that he talked with them last, has several weeks and was confirming it last week. And also, I need to know, do you require a flyer for the government, week and the ad? You know, the color quoted week.
I will
flyer
get you,
ad?
I will get you a copy. Basically, you could pull up the one we did last year and
I
change.
did the one that we had last year, so. I did the one that we
Yeah,
had last year,
that's what
so
you
I
pull
can
that
pull
one up
that up.
and change the dates to protect the innocent.
Okay,
No, just change the dates, but the Wednesday affair, instead of just being the the fire department demonstration, will be that combination demonstration at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7, over in front of the library. And I think of course, Monday, I don't know if we had the location on there or not, we might need to put
you'll
Roy's
need
Hall
the
on there.
location there. Mhm.
And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, if you give me a draft of that, and then,
And make
we'll send it out
arrangements
to send it out to everybody for approval. We'll do it
for
that way.
approval. Then, yeah, we will secure the space on the paper. We have to,
Yeah.
we have to secure it early.
Yeah.
so.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, give us a suitcase.
Nothing else? All right. Anybody from the audience like to address council this time? Anybody from the audience like to address council? Going once, going twice. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Good God.